Hey guys, welcome back to Yanasa TV. So I'm going to read to you an email that I got from Jim Smith. For those of you who don't know who Jim Smith is, Jim Smith runs Smithview Farms, not to be confused with Smithfield. Smithview is a pasture-raised, pasture-finished cattle business here in North Carolina, and Jim does an amazing job with doing a no-till drill seeding method on his fields to create forages to finish his cows year-round. He has a constant supply of beef year-round to his customers that are grass-fed, grass-finished products. And it's prime beef. I tell you what, it's some of the best beef that we've ever had. Comes right out of North Carolina, Jim Smith. And he can only sell in state though. People have asked me if he could sell out of state. But anyway, we did a video in our farm series on the Meet My Neighbor channel. You could watch where we actually went out and documented Jim's farm. And I've done several interviews with Jim throughout the years past, which are also, you can find them on the Meet My Neighbor Productions channel. Meet My Neighbor Productions is a nonprofit that my wife and I started to help people learn about agriculture. You know, our society is very funny. We're tuned into devices and fed basically an artificial world 24/7. And so if there's something that we can't see and we don't completely understand, we tend to just believe whatever is told to us by those artificial sources. And because of that, a very negative dialogue has come out against farming and the agrarian communities over the past several years when it comes to things like climate change and other invisible things that we can't see that we should be afraid of. And so we started this nonprofit to go out and tell the stories of these farmers and share these stories to help people who are zoned into these devices find a way to connect with farmers. Because if we don't tell the truth, if we don't get their stories out there, there will never be an alternative narrative other than the fake one that's being fed to them. It's an unfortunate thing, but it's something that I think ultimately will have a bigger impact. The more that we do of this project and the more others do of this project, hopefully we could help people be able to reconnect with where their food comes from. It's really important. So anyway, those of you who are like, hey, I don't want to buy a $30 t-shirt from Yanasa Trading Company, that's basically what a lot of those funds go towards. Well, a very small portion of each t-shirt's funds are actually profit, because everybody wants stuff made in the USA, everybody wants things printed, which is fine. You know, I could save about $10 a shirt if I get it made in Ethiopia. But because we're doing those shirts to raise money to help that program to be able to continue to bring content of farms and ranches across North America to the screens of people and help tell the story that's going to offset the negative narrative. Anyway, Jim Smith wrote me this email. Back to the story. Good afternoon, Charlie. I hope you are doing well. I never thought in a million years that our small farm would be attacked by the World Bank. Lord, please help us, Jim Smith. And he sent me a Newsbreak article titled World Bank Demands End to Farming by 2030 to Combat Climate Change Crisis. This is a fascinating article. I'm going to read a passage to you out of it really quick. The World Bank has issued a directive to Western nations to completely abolish farming in order to achieve net zero emissions by 2030. The plan includes closing down farms globally and placing them under the control of a few World Economic Forum young global leaders such as Bill Gates, who will then radically alter the way food is grown. Now, they used a lot of trigger words in that sentence, and I think that that's a big turnoff to a lot of people because it almost sounds too crazy to be real. It is true what the World Bank is doing. We saw last year numerous agricultural commissioners from multiple states and numerous Congress representatives send letters out to these banks telling them not to go along with these plans. It's going to completely disrupt agriculture in America. It's going to lead to food insecurity, all sorts of problems. So this is nothing new. But I do think that article, I think it came from Newsbreak, was using a lot of trigger words that send people down these paths. And the problem is that a lot of people end up not believing it. when they hear it put that way. You do trigger all of those people who have been following this information and know everything that's going on. But there wasn't a very good explanation as to what exactly the World Bank is doing. They did put in here a quote from a memo from the World Bank. While food on your table may taste good, it is also a hefty slice of the climate change emissions pie. Instead of promoting diverse agricultural practices that local family farmers have been perfecting for centuries, practices that are beneficial to the environment, the World Bank proposes eliminating agriculture entirely in some areas. This push has already been observed in the Netherlands and other parts of Western Europe. You're seeing that in action. But what they're also doing is they're basically changing the lending practices. So when you think about the World Bank, and you think about these, our regional and national banking institutions, what they're trying to do is change their lending practices to be environmentally friendly by saying, okay, look, if you're going to lend operating loans to these farmers, because they all depend on operating loans each year to be able to grow the crops on the scale that they grow them on, if you're going to lend money to them, they need to have an electric tractor, they need to have X, Y, and Z, and basically they're creating an infrastructure where you would have to invest millions as a farmer to be able to accommodate, or they wouldn't be able to lend to you. And that's kind of where I see this direction going. It's using finances and debt as a tool to alter an outcome down the road. And that outcome is a massive consolidation and then a massive amount of control over the agricultural production in general. That's the bigger problem that I see with what's going on here. They're altering all of that. They also do have areas like the Netherlands where they want to completely disrupt it. And the Netherlands is what we call a WEF food hub. What that means is that they've shut down a lot of the traditional farming practices and they've brought in a bunch of bug factories. This is all fact. It's not stuff that you make up. So the World Food Bank wants to invest about $260 billion a year to cut agri-food emissions in half by 2030. And so what they're going to be doing is they're going to be investing $260 billion a year in what they consider climate smart friendly practices and cutting the other guys out. It's basically a way of taking over and controlling a large amount of our food supply. And what their end goal is to cut emissions, which I think, at this point in time, when you talk to most people on the street, they think that, that's going to save the world. So it's a noble cause, right? But in that process, they're going to completely disrupt agricultural production. They're going to disrupt an entire economy, and they're going to flip it around. And at the other side of this, the outcome of this are larger farms, less farmers, more control. It'll also make our food production and food supply much more vulnerable. In addition to these investments, you're going to see more investments in lab-grown products, alternative food products. And I've said several times, and you've seen this with recalls and other things, that there's going to be a lot of scare tactic put on us when it comes to traditional foods, whereas this lab-grown stuff, these bugs and other things that they're going to give us in place of that, is free from foodborne illnesses, all these different things. So anyway, Jim, to answer your question, yes, there's a lot of truth to the article that you sent me. And like I said, it's not a new thing. This has been going on for some time. I do think that there were a lot of trigger words in that article, though, and I think that sometimes when you throw that many trigger words out there, it tends to cause a lot of people to disbelieve it. I mean, who could possibly believe that there's a world organization out there with, an evil villain at the top of it, who's stepping down, by the way. I think the next guy's going to be just as evil, though. But, when you look at this stuff, it all comes down to money at the end. These patented food products and things that they want to put in place of our traditional foods are products that have patents, they have royalties that go back to the people that created them. The only thing I can think of that we can do to offset, the changes that are coming, because money talks and they've got the money, we don't, is to share the story of agriculture and encourage more people to go and buy from their local farmers. I think that the future of agriculture in reality is going to be either a local market-based future where people are buying more from regional producers, local food producers. They're going to stop buying from big stores, or they're going to be going to the big stores and going to be buying from these mega climate smart friendly farms that are making billions off of taxpayer money. But how far in the future is that? I don't know. 2030 is pretty ambitious if you think about it. That's not that far away. It's kind of scary if you think about it.